All right, so I think it's about time.
Yeah, we get
Oh,
started.
hi everyone. Welcome to our Instagram Live. Thank you guys very much for being patient with us while we had our technical difficulties. So before we begin, I just wanted to introduce myself to you, and then Rebecca's going to introduce herself to you. And then we're just going to give you a brief outline of what we'll be discussing tonight. So my name is Kim. Hi, Levin from Maryland. I am a registered and licensed dietitian here in the state of Florida, which is cold for me. It's 65 degrees. I have on a sweater. I'm also a certified diabetes educator, and I took my examination to become a CDE in the fall of last year. It was right before FNCE, so it was about August or September. Rebecca?
I'm Rebecca. I am a registered dietitian in New York. I currently work in a hospital, and I just took my CDE exam in January.
Nice, nice. So let me just give you guys an outline of what we're going to be tonight. So Rebecca and I are going to be talking to you about the value of becoming a certified diabetes educator, who can become one, why take the examination, how to prep, as well as study materials that we've used. You guys can go ahead and put in the comment section any questions that you may have. So while we're discussing anything, if you don't want to forget, go ahead and ask your question. But we're going to save all the questions until the end of our Instagram Live so that we can properly address everything that you guys have in mind. So without any further ado, welcome. And I'm going to turn it over to Rebecca so that she can start us off and address what is a certified diabetes educator.
Yeah, so what's a CDE? We are health professionals who have a comprehensive knowledge of diabetes prevention and pre-diabetes and diabetes management. And we really educate and support the diabetic as well as their family on how to manage the diabetes, how diabetes affects their lifestyle. And being a CDE is really a lot about self-management of diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
We really want to empower the patient to really take ownership and take care of their diabetes and really address their behavior and treatment goals.
Exactly. And I like exactly what Rebecca said. It's really about self-management. Like before I became a certified diabetes educator, I realized that the client would put their trust in me to manage their diabetes. But after really understanding what a CDE does, I told the patient, I said, look, this is all you. I want you to be able to manage this because you're not going to take me home with you. You have my phone number, but I'm not going to be in your house. So with that being said, why is it important for dietitians to take the examination to become a certified diabetes educator? So first, I'm going to start off with some statistics. Hi, everyone that just joined. So let me tell you what the statistics are. So currently within the United States, there's over 30 million people that have diabetes. There's an additional 88 million people that have prediabetes. So let's do the math. So that's over 120 individuals that need education, correct? If you agree with me that these individuals need education, put in the comment section below a yes. I'm waiting. So while you guys are sitting there typing that these individuals need education, recently the Commission on Dietetic Registration welcomed its 100,000th dietitian. So I'm pretty sure that there's more by now. But out of these 100,000 dietitians, only 8,000 of us have some type of advanced certification in diabetes management or are certified diabetes educators. So let's compare the numbers. That's 120 million people that need education and only 8,000 individuals that are dietitians, that are CDEs or board certified in diabetes management. So that there's a great gap. Now, I'm not saying that if you're a dietitian and you don't have this certification that you can't help to educate the patient. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. But as Rebecca discussed, we are the professionals in this realm of practice to properly equip patients on how to manage their diabetes. What do you think, Rebecca?
Yeah, I totally agree. Like you said, dietitians can absolutely discuss diabetes with patients and go into the diet, but the CDEs really have the extra knowledge about medications and just to go a little bit deeper with the management of diabetes.
Yes, and I see Edgy Veggie says here, I wish more doctors would provide more referrals to RDs too. And that is definitely true. And once you become a certified diabetes educator, trust me, it happens. It's happening to me right now. So I want to give you guys a little story. I remember back in my dietetic internship, I'm always referring to that. I guess those are my good golden days.
Hey, Nicole.
I had my internship at a diabetes outpatient clinic, and there were three certified diabetes educators. Two of them were nurses, and one of them was the dietitian. And I would remember all the time, this dietitian would get so upset with the nurses because the nurses, not to knock on anyone's profession, the nurses would provide medical nutrition therapy and it was incorrect. So the dietitian would get so upset. So I believe that dietitians are the ones that have that knowledge of food and nutrition and know how to combine it with a certified diabetes educator certification to properly educate the patient. So Rebecca, what would you say the value of being a certified diabetes educator is?
Yeah, so of course, as a dietitian, we're an active part of the interdisciplinary team. We work closely with doctors and other disciplines, but as a CDE, like I said, you can kind of go one level deeper with the knowledge of medication and things like that. And so not only are we a valued member of the team, but now diabetes is reimbursable. As if a CDE counsels a diabetic, is reimbursable by insurance. So that not only gives us value, but it gives us monetary value to a hospital. So in a hospital or a clinic setting, we can actually, make revenue for the hospital. So that definitely helps our case.
Yes, it does. And with that, what I wanted to say, in the hospital that I work with, it's a smaller hospital, 120 beds. I'm the only dietitian on staff for both inpatients as well as outpatients. But I had the opportunity of interviewing a potential endocrinologist because I am a certified diabetes educator. So they realized that the revenue that I could bring to the field, as well as if you do decide to become a certified diabetes educator, there's revenue that you can bring as well. So now we're going to progress into who can become a certified diabetes educator. So there's a few criteria that you want to meet. The first one, any profession dealing, like for instance, a physical therapist can become one, an occupational therapist, a pharmacist, a doctor, a practitioner, or nurse, but I'm going to make this specific for dietitians. So for a dietitian, you need to be practicing for a minimum of 2 years. So if you are an RD to be, as soon as you get your credentialing, you have to wait 2 years, but don't waste your time. Go ahead and start studying. So you have to be practicing for a minimum of 2 years. The second thing is that you have to get 15 continuing educational units specifically for diabetes within 2 years before taking the examination. So if you do like a CEU and it's on like herbs, there's nothing pertaining to diabetes, it doesn't count. But if you do like a CEU on wound healing for diabetics, then it counts. Something along that. And the third thing, which is a question that I get asked a lot, is you have to accrue over 1,000 hours of practice experience in diabetes education. And 40% of those hours have to be gained within the year that you do take the RD exam. So for 2018, for those of you who are interested in taking the exam now, between 2017 and 2018, that year time frame, 40% of your hours has to be accrued. So, Rebecca, how did you obtain these 1,000 hours?
So I work in a hospital in the South Bronx where at least over 50% of my patients have diabetes. So it was not, Zahava, we're talking about the CDE exam right now, not the RD exam. So like most of my patients have diabetes. So I was able to get my hours pretty easily. I was lucky.
Good. I'm going to go ahead and answer Carolyn's question because this was the next thing that I did want to address. the way that I got my hours as well, I do inpatients as well as outpatients. And what I simply did, I created an Excel spreadsheet and I scrambled the patient's medical record number, and I documented the amount of time that I saw each patient, and I kept track that way. And yes, you do have to log your hours just in case, because you can get audited as a certified diabetes educator. They can audit you. So that's how I logged mine. So the next question that we have is, when can you take the exam?
So there's not a specific time of year that you need to take the exam. It's offered anytime. I know when I was taking it, there were only two time spots a day, like a 9 a.m. and a 1 p.m. But pretty much any day I wanted to take it was available. I guess it's not as popular as a test as the RD exam. So yeah, no specific time of year, and any day.
Right. And when did you take your exam, morning or afternoon?
I took it in the morning of a snowstorm. I was very lucky that I was able to take it that day still.
That's crazy. I took mine 9 a.m. as well, because I figured I was going to be fresh in the morning. But yeah. So how to prepare for the examination? The way that I would say prepare for the examination is knowing the basics. The first thing is realize that the examination is 4 hours long, and you are going to need every bit of that time. It took me 3 hours and 45 minutes to take the exam. What about you, Rebecca?
It took me about 3 hours, maybe a little bit more, but I'm a fast test taker.
Nice. So, and also know for the examination, not notice, that it's going to ask you 200 multiple choice questions. And these questions are just simple questions like, oh, what medication is a bigonide? Like, these are questions where there's two possible right answers here, folks. So it's really, to me, the test is not about how smart you are. The test is more so, are you able to hang for 3 to 4 hours? Because your brain gets tired. Oh, and also know that the passing rate is 70%. They did increase the passing rate. I think at one time, correct me if I'm wrong, Rebecca, wasn't it like 60% for the passing rate?
Like to be able to pass, like pass, or how many people pass?
To pass the test.
Oh, I'm not sure. Yeah, I just knew you had to get 70%.
Yeah, so I think it was 60% 2 years ago.
Wow.
Another thing that is important for preparing for the exam is that there's a practice test on the NCBDE website. I'm going to say that again, the NCBDE.org, which is the National Certification Board of Diabetes Educators. There is a practice examination of 50 questions, and I think the cost is between $50 to $65. But it gives you a good glimpse of what the exam is like, the type of questions that they're going to ask you. And when I took that examination, I realized that pharmacy was my weak point. It's always my weak point. So that's what I really focused on. How did you study for the exam, Rebecca?
Yeah, so I took, to answer GoToRD's question, yes, 70, you have to get a 70% at least to pass.
Yes.
I took a course, an online course, and then I took about a month and just studied. I studied the diabetes standards of care. That was the most helpful. I studied that a lot, and then I also made flashcards of the medications. I studied well with flashcards, and medications were also my weak point. So I studied that a lot. And then I also did a lot of practice tests. I did the practice test that Kim was just talking about, and I did 2 other practice tests that were given to me with the course.
Nice, nice. Another thing that I wanted to say is the CDE handbook has an outline of what is on the examination. So when I was studying, I just checked off to make sure that I addressed every single thing in the outline. And additionally, what Rebecca mentioned, the standards of care, oh, that is the Bible. That is the Bible.
It was my Bible.
Of the examination. Like, I promise you, during the examination, when I was taking my test, I was like, okay, let me turn to page so-and-so in the standards of care in my mind, and let me read this paragraph. Everything you need to know is in the standard. Well, I'm not going to say everything you need to know. Let me take that back. A lot of information that is pertinent.
Yes.
The examination is on that standards of care. Also wanted to show you the study materials. So I remember showing this to Rebecca, and I bought
the same book.
And she has the same book.
I have the same one, yeah.
It is Certified Diabetes Educator Exam Secrets Study Guide, Metrics. I bought this as a last-ditch effort. And to be honest with you, it's a good review, but it doesn't get into the details of what's on the exam. So after you finish studying, then I would say invest your money in something like this, or better yet, save your money. Because it's just a review. Yeah. It's really just a review.
Yeah, the standards of care was really the Bible. Caroline, the course that I took was through the American Association of Diabetes Educators. And I liked that because it was online, so you could do it at your own pace. And it was about 2 to 3 months long. So I thought that gave me a pretty good base.
Right. So at this time, we are going to open up the floor for questions. So I see Nana says, is this for learning the language? I'm not particularly sure what you mean, but we're discussing how to become a certified diabetes educator, information that you need to know if you're interested in taking the examination.
I want to go up. There were some other questions.
Sure.
Oh, Kim, maybe you can comment on this. Can you leave the number of practice hours if you don't work clinical?
Say that one more time. I didn't hear you too.
Can you achieve the number of practice hours if you don't work in clinical, outside of clinical?
Yeah, you can achieve the practice hours. The practice hours really just has to be experience in diabetes education. So if you work as an outpatient, or if you have, even as a community dietitian, if you have interaction with individuals that do have diabetes, that can count towards it as well. So you don't have to be in the clinical setting. In my opinion, it is easier to accomplish these hours in the clinical setting because diabetes, outpatient, hospital, it's linked with a medical, clinical aspect. But no, you don't have to work in the clinical setting.
Not mandatory. There's a question about reimbursement. Are all RDs eligible for reimbursement regardless of CDE title? I think is the question, if I understand it correctly. The answer is yes. As long as you are CDE, you are eligible for reimbursement.
Yes.
Let me know if I answered your question.
Yes. Carolyn says, I already answered that. How do you log and document the hours? Already answered that. Okay, Danny says, logging hours question. You can create an Excel sheet, and do you need your manager to sign off on it? So that is excellent. That's an excellent question. Yes, you do need someone to sign off on your hours and verify that you actually did them. They don't necessarily need to be your manager, but I don't think they can be your peer. So I guess, yeah, they do need to be your manager. It wasn't my direct manager. It was actually my chief nursing officer that signed off on the hours for me, because he was the one that asked me to take the examination. So he does have a copy of the hours, and I have a copy of the hours as well. So yeah, you would have to have your manager sign them off just to verify.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Zahava, back to the reimbursement question. Mm-hmm. RDs, if you're just an RD without a CDE, you are not eligible for the reimbursement. You need to have the CDE. RDs can reimburse for other things like obesity and other nutrition diagnoses, but not diabetes.
That's true. And I learned that the hard way, because in my facility where I work, I'm the one that actually puts in the charges for the patients that I see that have diabetes. And before I was a diabetes educator, I used the wrong charge, and that bill got flipped back to my hospital. So like the finance office was hunting me down to correct the charge. And then I actually had to get on the phone with the insurance companies, and they're like, we need your credentialing because you said you're a diabetes educator because you put in this charge. And I'm like, oh no, I'm just a dietitian. So that was a mess.
Yeah.
That was a whole learning curve for me.
Yeah. This is a good question. Did getting the credentials expand your job opportunities? So my kind of plan was to work as a clinical dietitian for a couple of years and then get my CDE. And I was just applying for jobs, and I got a new job. I'm going to be doing outpatient. And I feel that having the CDE got me a lot more interviews than if I didn't have one. I was also looking for specific outpatient jobs and specific diabetes educator jobs, but I did feel like it put me a little bit ahead in terms of getting interviews. I don't know for sure, but that was the goal in getting the CDE, was that it would expand my job opportunities.
That's true. And I was even speaking to a nephrologist, and especially like with renal disease, diabetes is such a prevalent disorder that I feel that getting the certification kind of, you're just, because I hear a lot of dietitians say, I'm not respected in the interdisciplinary team. Physicians don't respect me. The nurses don't respect me. But when you have this credentialing, you're just, I'm a certified diabetes educator, and let me give you some information about the interaction. Like, for instance, case in point, the other day there was a patient that came into the hospital, and they were just on a totally wrong class of injectable medications. And I was questioning the patient about it, and she didn't know why the doctor put her on this class. And so I'm looking at her medical history. I'm like, this is totally the wrong class of medications. So I approached the hospitalist, and he's looking at me like, how did you know that? And I'm like, oh, I'm a certified diabetes educator. So it's like my interaction with him since that day has been totally different. Talk about respect.
That's awesome.
To increase your respect in the profession.
Yep. Great story.
Go to RD says, has anyone completed the live class from Diabetes Education Services? I haven't. Have you, Rebecca?
No, I haven't. I don't know what that is, actually.
No, I never heard that before. So
I'll have to look into it.
I'm going to throw this question to you, Rebecca, from Caroline. She says, please share details on cost of exam and any extra yearly cost for upkeep.
Yeah. So the course that I took was like I want to say it was like $365. I got it reimbursed from my hospital for continuing education. So that was great. The exam was $350. That was not reimbursed. So I paid for that, but I was kind of budgeting for it. And you hope that when you get your CDE, that will increase your salary. So, and then no cost for like certifying or anything like that. At least that I haven't done yet.
Edgy Veggie says, just curious about pay raises based on certification. So the pay raises depend on what company you work for, who you work for. Like, for instance, what Rebecca said, her hospital had reimbursed for the cost of the program that you enrolled in, but not the cost of the examination, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So my hospital I'm contracted through another company to provide services for the hospital that I work. So everything got reimbursed for me, and then I got a pay raise on top of that. So it just really depends on who you work for.
Yeah. So you did get a raise when you got your CDE.
Yeah, I did.
So I did not, because my hospital doesn't do that, but I got a new job. So it just depends on where you are. Great.
So I think Carolyn answered the question for Veggie.
Good question.
Is he or she, I'm not sure. Well, they say, can I count my internship hours, or are hours all post RD exam? And Carolyn answered that and said, no, internship doesn't count. It doesn't count at all. Mm-mm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kim, maybe you can answer this question too. 1,000 hours, would charting on the patient count? Inpatient education lasts, no more than 15 minutes. How do you how do you get all those hours?
Being diligent, to be honest with you. I mean, really, how many patients do you see in a day? Because I mean, I had this thing squared because I see inpatients as well as outpatients, so I can spend more time with my outpatients. Because of course, the hospitals, I'm charging them to see me in 15-minute increments. But it's really about being diligent. Before I undertook actually taking the examination, I like to see numbers. So I said, okay, there's 365 days in a year, and can I get 40% of those hours within a certain amount of time? So I just charted everything out, and it was doable for me because I do see patients on 15-minute increments as well, but it is doable. Being diligent and charting everything, documenting.
Yeah. If I can be totally honest, I did not have like a very organized Excel log. I basically, so I knew that I was working at my hospital for about 2 years, and I've been a dietitian for over 2 years before I was taking the exam. And I worked out with my manager. My manager has had other dietitians become CDEs before.
Nice.
So she kind of did a calculation herself based on, okay, how many patients would the dietitian have to see over, a period of time, and that would, end up to be the hours. So to be very honest, I did not log my hours, and I just kind of trusted that I, was working at the hospital for a while and seeing that many, diabetic patients. Like, honestly, I see at least, like probably 70% of my patients are diabetics.
Right.
So I was very lucky because of the setting that I work in.
Right. That's true too. Because I mean, definitely with this setting, it seems like everyone has diabetes nowadays. It's like when I'm not even surprised anymore. When I don't see it in the medical history, that's when I get surprised.
Yeah.
Oh wow, you don't. Wow.
Good for you.
Exactly.
This is a good question from Caroline. Do you want to answer?
Sure. What is it? I'm still looking at
Oh, does insulin resistance, acanthosis nigricans count, or does it have to be type 1, type 2 diabetes confirmed diagnosis? So the answer is no. Any pre-diabetes and diabetes we deal with. So insulin resistance, pre-diabetes, anything leading, it doesn't have to be a diabetes diagnosis that we can manage.
Right. Because I mean, I'm looking at the word specifically. It says practice experience in diabetes education. So, I mean, if those warning signs are there, like you see it, and like you see the blood sugars that, they're trending upwards, you're looking at that hemoglobin A1C and it's trending upwards. I mean, it encompasses everything.
Yeah, I mean, dietitians are all about prevention, and it's the same thing with CDE, so it's great.
I know Levin had a question that I want to address. He says, what issues, and tell me if we addressed this before, what issues do you usually counsel on with patients? What issues do you usually counsel on with diabetics?
Am I going or are you going?
Sure. I counsel a lot on, it has been medication management, because I'm saying to myself, you ran out of insulin. Why? And it was a matter of, well, I didn't want to go to the doctor to get another prescription, or I stopped taking my metformin because I don't believe I have diabetes. So it's a lot of medication management I've been dealing with lately. And I just lay out the facts. Like, this is your blood sugar. This is your hemoglobin A1C. This is your diagnosis from the medical provider. These are the signs. You have polydipsia. You have polyphagia. You've lost X amount of weight in X amount of time. You came in with DKA. So it's really medication management I've been dealing with. So that are some of the issues that I have faced. What about you, Rebecca? It's not really diet anymore after becoming a certified diabetes educator for me. I think right now it's mostly the medications.
Yeah. So I feel like I do more diet than medication management, but that could also just be the setting that I work in is patient. dietitian. And most of my patients have terrible diets. So I feel like I do a lot of diet and lifestyle counseling. I did have a patient the other day who'd stopped taking his insulin because he was afraid of needles. So we talked about that. But yeah, so it's a variety. But I feel like at this point, I'm doing more diet. But I'm sure once I go into the outpatient setting, I'll do more medication as well.
Right. So Corey says, I was lucky to be hired as a dietitian at a diabetes outpatient clinic. That's awesome.
Yeah,
where 99% of the patients I see have diabetes. It has also helped me learning diabetes medications. That's awesome, because it will be easier for you in the studying process, and you don't have to sit there and learn the medications and the action times and the peak times. That was the hardest part for me. I kept confusing it.
Yeah. I remember someone told me, or I read, that dietitians end up doing better and have a higher passing rate on the exam than pharmacists and nurses, because they already know a lot of the nutrition that like dietitians just have to really focus on the medication and some of the other stuff that they test on. So that's awesome. Good for dietitians.
There was a nurse. I mean, I didn't meet her. I had a dietetic intern that was staying with me for a little bit, and she went over to the competing hospital, and she met a nurse that had recently passed her examination to become a certified diabetes educator. And the nurse told her that all her examination was just on medical nutrition therapy, like, oh, one slice of bread is 15 grams of carbs. And the nurse did not know that information. I'm like, I wish my examination was like that. My examination was mostly medications. It was all meds. Hi, Tony. Welcome. So do you guys have any more questions for us before we wrap up everything? Just to confirm, this recording will be on my Instagram channel for the next 24 hours as well. I'm uploading this on my YouTube as well. So when it disappears in 24 hours, you can hop on over to my YouTube channel.
Yeah. It will be on my Instagram as well for 24 hours.
Yes.
Oh, I'm glad it's been helpful.
Yes. Any more questions that you guys may have? No? Okay, well, thank you guys for watching. Do more live videos.
Do more. All right, let's do it.
We shall.
Yeah.
You're welcome, Carolyn.
Thank you, guys.
All right, you guys have a great night. And Rebecca, I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you later, guys. Thanks so much.
All right, bye.